Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive.
Today, we're tackling job interviews.
Okay.
You've prepped that resume, you've networked like crazy, and bam, you landed an interview.
Right.
But how do you really stand out?
Now, you've probably heard of the STAR method, right?
Sure, it's a classic for a reason.
But what if I told you there's a totally fresh, even more effective way to approach this whole thing?
I'm all ears. What's the secret weapon?
It's not exactly a secret, but it's definitely overlooked. We're diving into Decem Stellae, this career consultancy. They're boasting a crazy success rate, like their clients are seeing a 60% jump in landing jobs.
60%. Okay, now you've got my attention. That's huge.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's not just about getting any job. It's about finding the right fit.
That makes sense. So how do they define job fit? Is it about company culture, career goals, or something else entirely?
We're going to unpack all of that. But first, I have to ask, have you ever used the STAR method and still felt like it fell short? Like you nail the answers, but...
Yes, a million times. It's like, I know I have the experience, but I can't always put it into those perfect little star boxes.
That's exactly what we're talking about. Decem Stellae gets that. They've got this system, this elastic approach that helps you think on your feet and tailor your responses to whatever gets thrown at you.
So it's less about memorizing answers and more about having a strategy. That's interesting.
Exactly. And they've actually identified, get this, 20 different interview approaches and 12 response indexes.
Whoa, that's intense, but also kind of amazing. It's like they've created a formula for acing any interview.
Right. So let's ditch the whole one-size-fits-all thing and figure out what makes Decem Stellae so effective.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
What's interesting is that while the STAR method has its merits, it doesn't always capture the full picture of a candidate's potential.
You're right. It can be so frustrating to feel like you're more than just a list of past experiences, you know?
Exactly. And in today's job market, it's not enough to just say, I did this. You need to show how you think, how you problem solve, how you fit into a company's culture.
Okay, yeah. So how does Decem Stellae address that? They've got 20 approaches, 12 indexes. What do they actually do differently? Give me an example.
Hold on. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Before we unpack all the Decem Stellae magic, let's talk about why this even matters. Like, for our listeners, why is this deep dive worth their time?
You're right. Let's back up a bit. So for anyone listening who's thinking, is this interview stuff really that big of a deal? Why should they care?
Exactly. Let's break it down.
Okay, sounds good. I'm ready.
We were just talking about why this deep dive even matters.
Right.
We're talking about upping your interview game, really crushing it.
Totally.
But for those who might be thinking, is this really necessary? Why is mastering this so crucial in today's job market?
You're hitting a really critical point because the job landscape, it's totally different now.
It's night and day compared to a few years ago.
Right, like with remote work blowing up, people applying for jobs across the globe, and AI, going through resumes.
Oh, don't even get me started on those AI resume scanners.
It's a whole different ballgame. Competition is crazy. A firm handshake and a nice resume, not going to cut it anymore.
Okay, so then how does Decem Stellae tackle this new reality? You mentioned earlier they have these 20 different approaches, 12 response indexes.
Yeah.
That sounds seriously comprehensive.
It is, it is.
Can you give us like a concrete example of this in action?
Absolutely. So say you're in an interview and they hit you with one of those situational questions.
The dreaded situational question.
Right. Something like, tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult colleague.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
So a classic STAR response would focus on the situation, your actions, that whole thing. But Decem Stellae, they're pushing you to go further. They have this one response index called the Impact and Growth Index.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So it's not just describing the situation and what you did. It's about analyzing the impact of your actions on the team.
Interesting. So it's less about what you did, more about the effect you had.
Exactly. And crucially, what you learned from that whole experience. It shows self-awareness, emotional intelligence, that you're always growing as a professional.
That makes so much sense. Because employers are looking for those qualities. It's not just about ticking boxes on a skills list anymore.
Right. They're investing in a person, not just filling a seat. They want to know you'll thrive in their environment.
And that ties into what you mentioned earlier about cultural fit.
Exactly.
Can you unpack that a bit more? How does Decem Stellae help candidates navigate that? Because it can be a bit nebulous.
It is. It's about ditching those generic answers,
Yeah.
You have to show you genuinely get their company's vibe. Decem Stellae really encourages you to do your research.
Due diligence.
Yes. Figure out those key aspects of their culture that resonate with you.
So it's about finding that genuine connection, that overlap.
Yes. And then during the interview, you weave those insights into your answers. So it's not just saying, I admire your company's commitment to innovation, but more like, I'm drawn to your emphasis on cross-functional collaboration because in my previous role,
Show, don't tell. You're connecting the dots between your experience and their values.
Exactly. And this is actually where Decem Stellae's impact is super clear.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They've seen that first-time job seekers, especially those with less experience to draw on.
Which can be a tough spot to be in.
It can. But those folks see the most improvement using these methods. We're talking up to a 60% increase in landing the right job.
That's huge.
It is.
And it shows that this stuff, it's learnable. You're not just stuck with whatever natural interview skills you have. You can actively hone your approach and significantly increase your chances.
100%. It's about having the right tools, the right strategies to really present your best self. Experience level doesn't matter as much as you think.
So it's not about luck. It's about preparation. It's about strategy and really understanding what clicks with interviewers in today's market.
Nailed it.
It's really about shifting your mindset from, like, proving yourself to having this, like, real conversation, a dialogue.
Yes. It's about making a connection instead of, just going through the motions.
Totally. Okay, so for our listeners who are, like, gearing up for their next big interview, what's, like, one key piece of advice based on Decem Stellae's approach?
Ooh, good question. If I had to pick one thing, it would be this. Interviewers, they're not just looking at what you've done, they're looking for potential.
Oh, that's so true.
Think of it like they're not just filling a spot, right? They're thinking about how you'd contribute to their company long term.
They're thinking about the future, yeah.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to share your vision, your ideas, even if they push the boundaries a little bit.
Show them what you're capable of.
Yes. Show them what you can bring to the table. And that's where having this framework like Decem Stellae can be so powerful. It helps you go beyond just like answering questions. You end up having a real exchange.
A two-way street.
Yes. You're both learning from each other.
That's a great point. Decem Stellae, they give you the tools, but you're the one using them, right?
Right.
It's about showcasing what you bring to the table authentically.
Exactly. It's about going into that interview, seeing it as a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
You're showing your value, but you're also figuring out, is this company, this role right for me?
Love that.
Yeah.
We've covered so much. I feel like we just scratched the surface of Decem Stellae's methods, but it's clear this is a totally different way to think about interview prep.
It really is. It's about like leveling up, meeting the moment. Interviewers today, they want something different.
They do.
They want someone who's skilled, but also adaptable, forward-thinking, someone who gets their culture.
For sure. So for our listeners who are feeling fired up, ready to ditch the old playbook and try this out,
Yes.
We'll link to Decem Stellae's website and all their resources in the show notes.
Yes, everyone should check them out. Their stuff is seriously game-changing.
It's real. All right, as you head back out into the world ready to crush those interviews, I want to leave you with this.
Yeah.
Imagine walking into any interview for any job and feeling totally prepped, totally confident. What would that unlock for you? What doors would open? What would you be capable of achieving? Think about it. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, you got this.